Are you one of those home buyers at the beginning of the year wondering if it was a great time to buy? Now that we're past the halfway point of the year, we know the answer to that question. It was a great time to buy at the beginning of the year. But what about now? With all the increase in home prices, increase in mortgage rates, and talks of a recession, is it still a good time to buy this year, or should you hold off until next year? Hey guys, my name is Mac Rogers. I'm a real estate broker here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Hey, do me a favor. I would love to get into 1,000 subscribers. Please hit the like, subscribe, and share button if you enjoyed this content. Onto the video. Today's video will help answer the question, should you buy a house this year or next year? This video applies to you if you are here in the Bay Area or other parts of the country. The data that I'll be sharing is both local and national, and I will give examples from here in the Bay Area just to show you how it's affecting us here. The purpose of this video again is to provide you insights and outlook to help you make an informed decision if you're thinking of buying a house. Let's begin with the current real estate market overview. Here's the nationwide look. These two graphs that I have here represent what has happened in the first half of 2022 all the way to April of this year. In the first half of 2022, prices went up like crazy as home buyers piled on to make sure that they can get a great rate or great mortgage rates as the feds started their rate hike. Now, some people look at this event and think that this was kind of a speculative and that this was artificially inflating home prices. What I believe is that the people that bought homes during that time were already planning to buy a house, whether it was during that time or later on in the year or even this time of the year. Now, because the feds started increasing rates, everyone's plans just got accelerated. It wasn't as if there were no buyers and all of a sudden, because rates started going up, that out of nowhere, these people that weren't ready or God forbid weren't even qualified just decided to all of a sudden buy a house. I don't believe that for a moment. Again, it accelerated people's plan on buying, and I have data to prove this point. Take a look at this. These are the times when the rate increased, and check out what happened to home prices. Went up every time. You might be saying that doesn't make sense. Well, it does, because most people are thinking rates are going up, we need to buy. So more demand. What gets affected are the number of sales because less people qualify. Now let's get back to my other charts. Now take a look at the second half of 2022. Prices started to go down simply because it got too expensive, and pretty much most everyone that wanted to buy have already bought. What we were left with are the ones that were kind of straggling the fence and essentially all the other new buyers that were coming into the market. But also pay attention to how the chart started to change. The decline month to month actually started to change or decelerate. And then this year we went back into the green. Now, I'm not saying there was no decline in home prices, okay? There were truly a lot of price adjustment that happened, primarily because inventory started increasing. However, the increase in inventory had to do more with homes staying on the market longer rather than really adding more inventory. At the end of the day, people were still buying houses. The Bay Area pretty much followed the same pattern. Here's one example for Alameda County. First half of 2022 going up, second half of 2022 going down, and year to date it started going up again. Also, one thing I would like to share with you are the days on the market. Check this out. We were going up and then this year we went back down. This means that properties are getting into contract much faster. Now, the reason people think that we are currently in a bad market is because we are comparing our current year to the unicorn years, 2020, 2021, not a good comparison. Those years we had some extraordinary event that happened that affected the market in a positive way. What we can compare this year that we are having are to 2017, 18, and 19. Those were kind of like the last normal years that we've had. Sales volume and mortgage rates are pretty similar. Big difference is price. Absolutely different. And that translates big in terms of affordability. So if you're considering buying a house, you have to look at affordability and your financial situation. Now let me just stay with the Bay Area for a moment here. Here's a bit of sobering information for you. If you're thinking of buying a house in, say, San Mateo or Santa Clara counties, you would need to be making at least $400,000. Plus, remember, you also have to have, you have to have down payment and savings. Now, when you move over here to the East Bay, like Alameda or Contra Costa counties, you only need $300,000 to afford a home. But the situation is the same nationwide, which to be brutally frank with you, I can't totally relate when I look at the salaries needed. According to the most recent Harvard study, the average income needed to buy a home in the US is around $170,000 to afford a monthly mortgage of around $3,000. And by the way, you have to take into account other costs associated with owning a house: maintenance, upkeep, remodeling, skyrocketing hazard insurance, taxes. It's not all fun and games owning a home. Now, looking at your option, renting versus buying, years ago when rates were down, there was a case to be made that buying a house was cheaper than renting. However, what no one accounted for in most of these conversations was, in order for you to kind of at least match the rent versus mortgage, was you needed to have money for down payment. And in a lot of cases, most people simply did not have the 20% down that most home buyers thought they needed. Now, I'm a proponent of buying simply because I believe that you have more freedom when you own your own home. But let me give you both sides of the argument. Let's look at renting first. Renting provides more flexibility since leases are typically shorter-term commitments. It's easier to relocate for job opportunities or lifestyle changes. Renting generally requires a smaller upfront financial commitment, as you usually only need to pay security deposit and the first month's rent. One big advantage of renting is the landlord is typically responsible for property maintenance and repairs, saving you time and money. Now, here's a little bit of a negative or a con for renting. Rent payments do not build equity in a property, meaning you won't have an asset to sell or borrow against in the future. Now let's look at buying. When you buy a house, your mortgage payments contribute to building equity, which can be considered a form of forced savings and an investment for the future. Home ownership provides a sense of stability and allows you to establish roots in the community. Homeowners may benefit from tax deductions on mortgage interest and property taxes, potentially reducing your overall tax liability. As a homeowner, you have the freedom to customize and improve your property to suit your preferences and needs. And here's the biggest, again, real estate can appreciate over time, offering potential long-term financial gains. Which brings me to my next point, the long-term investment potential of owning a house. There's no denying the numbers. Long-term, real estate has been a great investment, and I'm not just talking about the Bay Area, but the entire country. Take a look at this graphic. From 1991 to 2022, the national average is around 281%. That's up 281%. But if you ask Warren Buffett, he will tell you that he doesn't regret buying his house and he has made money on it. But if he would have taken that initial investment he made, the down payment, and put it in the stock market, he said that he would have made more money. Just food for thought. But just because it went up in the past doesn't mean it will continue to go up, right? You have to look at what's going on in your area or in your region. For example, here in the Bay Area, we've had thousands of layoffs in the tech sector. And tech workers are one of the reasons we have these astronomical prices. This is probably something you need to be concerned about with in terms of what is happening in our region. I mean, would we or could we become the next Detroit? We've already had a ton of company exodus and probably more to come, but it hasn't hit critical mass yet. I mean, right now it's all clickbait news. Yes, lots of people and companies have left, but it hasn't hit home so far. Here's the flip side to this. If you look at the early days of tech, it was about manufacturing. And when manufacturing left, we moved on to the internet. Basically, tech right now are all about service, design, etc. Very little manufacturing going on. Now, it seems that the next exodus is happening right now, but guess what's on the sidelines? Biotech, which has been here for a while now and continues to grow, and AI. 11 of the top 20 VC-funded companies are located in San Francisco. So you can argue that one industry dies and another one replaces it. But will that always be the case? So for you guys outside the Bay Area, that is what you have to look at. What's the regional economic factor in your area that will affect the housing market? You also have to look at the local housing market trends. For this, you have to look at specific neighborhoods or cities and see how they have performed during a downturn. For example, here in the Bay Area, San Mateo and Santa Clara counties are more resilient and also bounces back faster than the rest of the Bay Area counties. Why? Because it's between San Francisco and Silicon Valley, which are major industrial business hubs. But with San Francisco seeming to be on the verge of collapsing, will that still be the case? Certainly, if you go outside or the outskirts of the immediate Bay Area, there are lots more opportunities and prices are more affordable. But those places are also the places that tend to get hit hard when something happens. Another factor to consider are government policies and regulations. What are relevant government policies or regulations affecting the real estate market in your area? Places such as Texas, Arizona, Florida, they seem to have more activity when it comes to building massive amounts of homes. Here in California, not only are there such restrictive rules and regulation, but also just the sheer expense of building is enormous. I'm talking about labor and materials. Another restriction here in California are resources. Even if we can build all the needed housing, where are we going to get the water supply for all these new homes? Same thing with electricity. PG&E can barely keep up right now. How much more when you construct hundreds of thousands, if not millions of housing? So if the place you're looking into just keeps on building and building and building, yes, that will affect the value of your home when there's a downturn. So that's another consideration you might want to think about. Which brings me to you. Your personal circumstances and lifestyle. You have to ask yourself these questions. Number one is there a need for you to buy a house? Number two, how much are you qualified for to buy a house? Number three, do you like what you see out there? Meaning, does it meet your needs and wants? You also have to look at your job stability, future plans, and balance this with your desire to own a home. So what are the experts saying about buying a house? It's all over the place. If you look at the major companies doing forecasting, they all forecast homes are or will continue to go up. And by the way, they revised these numbers. Back at the end of 2022, the projection was that we were supposed to be going down this year. But now they are projecting that we end the year higher. Here's what I'm gonna do. Instead of going over all the bullish predictions that I found online, I'll put all the links in the description so you can read them for yourself, including the article with Warren Buffett. What I want to touch upon is the lone voice I saw that was negative on the housing market. I've been doing this long enough that I know when someone goes against the tide, it's worth checking out why they are saying what they are saying. What data do they have that tells them otherwise? This one is from an analyst from Morgan Stanley. Here's the summary of the article or the bullet points. Home prices are expected to be flat year over year in 2023 before edging lower next year. This is due to a number of factors, including rising mortgage rates, which are making it more expensive to buy a home, and a limited supply of homes on the market. However, the analysts believe that the steepest parts of the decline in home prices are behind us and that we can expect a more gradual recovery in the coming years. Originally, when I first saw the article, I thought it was going to be a doom and gloom article, but it's not. I mean, it's a bearish outlook, but nothing severe. Basically, the Morgan Stanley housing analysts believe that the housing market is starting to cool off, but that we can expect a more gradual recovery in the coming years. This means back to normal markets, not like the pandemic housing market. So should you still buy a house this year or wait until next year? To me, it starts with your needs and wants. From there, you have to assess your financial situation, including your ability to afford the down payment, monthly mortgage payments, and ongoing home ownership costs like property taxes, insurance, maintenance, etc. From there, you have to look at the current state of the housing market in your area. Are home prices increasing rapidly, making it harder to buy a property, or is it more affordable to buy than rent? What are your long-term plans? How long do you plan to stay in the area? If you anticipate moving within a few years, renting might be a better option due to the costs associated with buying and selling a home. I think the biggest thing is, like I said earlier, personal preferences. Think about your lifestyle preferences and benefits that each option offers. For some, the flexibility of renting might be more appealing, while others prioritize the stability and investment potential of home ownership. Look, if you're worried about the housing market crash, it will eventually happen. But with the current housing environment, it won't be the housing and mortgage market that will crash this market like the last time. It could be commercial real estate. It could be a deep and prolonged recession. It could be escalating war. Or if you're here in California, huge catastrophic event like an earthquake or wildfires spreading to metro areas. I think you should buy. Thanks for watching.